The broken watch. The rain had been falling for hours. The streets were empty except for a few flickering lamps that threw trembling reflections onto the puddles below. In the middle of that quiet, wet night, Ethan Cole walked alone, his coat soaked, his shoes heavy, his heart even heavier. In his hand, he held an old, broken watch. Its glass was cracked, its hands frozen at 3:17. He kept staring at it, as if time itself had stopped there, in that exact minute, on that exact day. 3 years ago, that watch had belonged to his father. Ethan's father, Daniel Cole, was a simple man. He wasn't rich, but he was wise, a watchmaker who believed time was more than hours and minutes. Time, he used to say, is life's heartbeat. Every tick means you're still alive, still fighting. On Ethan's 18th birthday, Daniel gave him the watch. It's not new, he smiled, polishing its silver rim, but it's yours now. Take care of it, and never forget that broken things can still be beautiful. Back then, Ethan didn't understand. He was too young, too impatient, too eager to leave the small town and chase his dreams in the city. A month later, he left, promising to visit often. He never did. Life in the city moved faster than the second hand on a clock. Ethan got a job, made new friends, and lost himself in the rhythm of deadlines and neon lights. His father's calls became background noise. "I'll call you back, Dad," he'd say. He rarely did. Then came that one night, the night the clock stopped. He was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. The name on the screen made his chest tighten. Dad. He hesitated, looked around the room, and muted the call. An hour later, another call came, this time from the hospital. By the time Ethan reached home, it was too late. His father had passed away, quietly, alone, surrounded by half-repaired watches and unfinished timepieces. On his workbench lay the broken silver watch. Its hand stopped at 3:17, the exact time of his father's last breath. For months after the funeral, Ethan couldn't look at the watch. He kept it in a drawer, buried under receipts and regrets. The ticking of any clock made him uneasy, like a reminder of what he'd lost and what he'd wasted. His mother had passed away when he was just a boy, so now the house stood empty. Dust gathered on his father's tools. Cobwebs claimed the shelves where watches once ticked in harmony. Every corner of the workshop whispered memories he wasn't ready to face. But time, even when broken, has a strange way of circling back. One rainy afternoon, Ethan passed by a small antique shop on his way to work. In the window, something caught his eye, a display of old watches polished and ticking beautifully. He stopped. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him. "Do you like watches?" a gentle voice asked. He turned to see a young woman standing by the door, holding a yellow umbrella. Her smile was kind but curious. "I used to," Ethan said quietly. "Not anymore." She tilted her head. "Used to? Why stop liking something that measures your own story?" He didn't know how to answer that. Instead, he nodded awkwardly and walked away. But that question, measures your own story, followed him all the way home. That night, he opened the drawer and pulled out the old watch. Its face was cold, its hands frozen still. He held it close, and for a moment, he could almost hear his father's voice. Broken things can still be beautiful. The next day, Ethan returned to the antique shop. The woman introduced herself as Lena, the owner's daughter. She recognized the sadness in his eyes and listened quietly as he told her about his father, the watchmaker, the gift, and the time that stopped. "Maybe," Lena said softly, "it's waiting for you to fix it." Ethan hesitated. He hadn't touched a screwdriver or a gear since his father's death. His hands trembled as he examined the watch. The damage was small, a misaligned gear, a cracked glass, nothing he couldn't fix. But it felt like more than metal. It felt like guilt. Still, with Lena's encouragement, he tried. Hours passed. The rain outside faded. Inside the shop, time seemed to pause. Every screw he tightened, every piece he adjusted, felt like mending not just the watch, but himself. Finally, with one careful twist, the second hand began to move. Tick, tick, tick. Ethan exhaled. For the first time in 3 years, the sound didn't hurt. It healed. When he got home that night, Ethan looked through his father's old drawers. Amid old receipts and gears, he found a small envelope labeled for Ethan. Inside was a handwritten letter. "My son, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. But don't be sad. I had time, enough time to see you grow, to see you chase your dreams. That was more than I ever hoped for. I know you blame yourself for not being here. But listen, son, life doesn't stop for regret. It moves like the hands of clock. And broken time can always be repaired if you have the courage to try. Take the watch. Fix it when you're ready. When it ticks again, remember, I'm still with you. Love, Dad." Tears blurred the ink as Ethan read. His father had known him too well, even in silence. A few weeks later, Ethan reopened his father's old workshop. The smell of oil, the ticking of clocks, they no longer haunted him. Instead, they comforted him. He started repairing watches again, one by one, bringing forgotten timepieces back to life. Lena often visited, bringing coffee and laughter. Together, they cleaned the shelves, painted the walls, and turned the dusty space into a warm, glowing shop called Coal and Time. And on the counter, in a glass box, sat the old silver watch, still ticking faithfully at the right time. When customers asked about it, Ethan would smile and say, "It's more than a watch. It's a promise that broken things can be made whole again." Years later, when the shop had become known across the town, Ethan sat by the window one evening, the sunset painting the sky gold. He looked at the watch, now perfectly repaired, and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." At that exact moment, the watch ticked, once softly, and then stopped again. Ethan smiled. This time, he didn't feel sadness. He understood. Some things stop not because they're broken, but because their purpose is fulfilled. He placed the watch back in its glass box and turned off the lights. Outside, the world kept ticking, steady, endless, alive.